Happy holidays and welcome to the Village of Addison 2017 Year in Review. I'm Don Weiss. We're very glad that you are spending some of your holidays with us. This is our 30th such interview that has taken place here on Addison Community Television. We've been very pleased to bring this program to you on an annual basis, and I'm joined here once again in the studio by Addison's Mayor, Rich Veenstra. He joins me here every month on Ask Mayor Veenstra, but a little change of pace here and a lot of things to cover. So Mayor, welcome, a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Same to you too.
Thank you very much. Well, we have a huge list of things to cover and talk about programs that were undertaken, various projects either undertaken during this past year or certainly coming up in the near future. And to do that, we'll get started right away. Well, Mayor, one of the big projects, really, it was your signature project, took place just directly outside of our studio window here with the Village Green Improvement Project. Right. And really, this was its debut year during the various summer events, Rockin' Wheels and so on, the brick path, the lighting and so on. Feedback from residents, can you talk a little bit about how did the community take to the new look that we've given to our Village Green?
Remarkably positive. I really have had no negative comments about it, nor have the trustees. It's something that we felt was very important to rally the community, bring people together, enjoy an evening of fun and recreation, and it really has paid off. The attendance over the year, we averaged about 1,500 per event, and just very, very positive feedback, and people were disappointed when it was the last event of the year. So
some of us were a little relieved,
right,
actually.
Right. But it's been an outstanding success, and my counterparts in other communities are, quite frankly, jealous. I mean, they're talking about Addison, the place to be on Thursday nights.
Well, we like to hear that,
yeah,
actually.
Definitely.
The amenities and things that were brought into the Village Green really help kind of frame it and put a spotlight on this. It is within our town center district. It is right alongside the historical district here. The brick path, the lighting, the new bollard lighting. It's a much safer environment, allows people to get around much easier at all of those various events. The street resurfacing directly in front of St. Paul Church, the brick paver, really does add a look of sort of a historic Addison, right, I think, to our community.
It's also allowed residents to share and discover things about Addison. Our museum had very seldom been used in the past, and the attendance on Thursday nights and for the special events that we've been doing has been remarkable. And so it's really added a lot to our community and an awareness both by our residents as well as people outside of Addison.
Well, it's really helped promote community engagement, a sense of civic pride within Addison. And to put a spotlight on that, we're going to show you some highlights right now of some of those various community engagement events that took place, most out of the Community Relations Department. We'll come back and discuss those with Mayor Veenstra.
We really, if we work together as a community, I see great things in the next 5, 10, 20 years. It's unlimited if we understand what the vision is and where we really want to work together to achieve it.
Great. Thank you. We'd like to thank all of our speakers and you, the audience, for your participation in the 10th Annual Shape of Addison Town Meeting. It's not easy being up here and having to answer all these questions. Let's give the speakers a hand.
tree? You make a beautiful Barbie doll. That is really cool. Thank you. Okay, can you melt? Can you melt? How do you melt? Oh.
So that's little Susanna.
Proud and help me sing along. We're Addison.
I'm so proud to say that together, we once again demonstrated the meaning and spirit of the Addison Advantage by surpassing the $1 million mark. Truly a manifestation of who we are as a community.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Look at that, beautiful. Merry Christmas, Addison. Merry Christmas to all.
Well, that was just a sampling of some of the various community engagement programs and events which took place here in Addison. Of course, within that segment, we saw highlights from the 10th annual Shape of Addison Town Meeting, which was held on January 25th, the community inauguration ceremony, which featured my colleague here, the mayor, on April 27th, being sworn into his second term. The various Memorial Day events, which have just expanded over the last several years, on May the 29th. All of the various Rock and Wheels weeks, those Thursday night events, which take place, as we mentioned earlier, in the Village Green during the summer. Our Fall Fest and the Civil War Living History on October 28th. The Mayor's Community Charity Ball, its 27th annual event, on November 11th. And then, of course, just recently was the Christmas tree lighting here at Village Hall and in the Rotunda on December 1st. So, Mayor, when we look at all of those things, and we've talked about this in the past, the idea of having bringing people together for these and many other events, how do you, as mayor, look upon our community when it comes to things like engagement? How do residents partake and either exchange and fellowship, share ideas, or come out and support the community? Why are these things important to have in a town like Addison?
Well, I think it is all about community. Yeah, and to be a successful community, people have to be engaged. And one of the things that we've been aware of for years is that our community does come out when there's a need or when there's a cause, whether it's a charity or the Mayor's Ball is a good example. But that engagement has to be part of what we feel about our community. And the pride, the ability to say, yes, I live in Addison is huge. It helps us market our community to new businesses, to people coming in to shop and do business in town. And that pride, I think, is critical. And these venues help to reinforce that. And people walk away going, wow, this is Addison, you know, and it's an important thing for us.
Well, one of the things that we took a lot of pride in this past summer happened at Indian Trail Junior High School. Students were involved in what was called the Innovation Alive Challenge. It was a 4-week program where we saw some future entrepreneurs getting started and ultimately creating a product that was going to go to market. You were very involved in the process with that. It really offsets and goes along with your workforce development task force, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But why was it important to allow young people, in this case the students at Indian Trail who took part in this program, the chance to learn some of these new features, use some of their skills and learn some new techniques also to put together a product that was ultimately going to be marketed? It was quite a feature and quite a highlight during the summer months here in town.
Well, I think it highlighted a different type of learning experience. And one of the things that you hear quite often is that the quality of schools really leads to the quality of life in a community. And being able to point to these kind of initiatives and things that we're doing that are totally unique in Addison and in our schools, seeing the accomplishments that accrue from that are reasons why people should be thinking about Addison as a potential place to live and raise their families. So again, bringing focus, bringing more awareness of all of the unique things that are going on in our school system is critical. And the learning experience for the students that were involved was remarkable, and it energizes them to the point where they're pushing these kinds of programs now, and the school administration is looking at ways of incorporating these learning styles into other curriculum.
Mm-hmm. As I mentioned, the Workforce Development Task Force has been ongoing, something you initiated when you became mayor just this past year. In addition to holding job fairs at Addison Trail, there was a Manufacturing Day event. In fact, 2 such events. Illinois' Lieutenant Governor Evelyn Sanguinetti visited Pioneer Service in October, and then also the Manufacturing Day event, which took place at Domtar Manufacturing the following day. So the idea of highlighting Addison's industrial park in our industrial area, it's one of the largest in Illinois, and also making certain that people are aware of the potential for new careers, job skill, job training, all taking place under that umbrella of the Workforce Development Task Force. It's something you're going to be continuing, I'm sure, in the future.
Definitely. Addison's the 4th largest industrial park in the state of Illinois. That's an important asset that we have that we really haven't really capitalized on in the past. We also have a large potential workforce. With what's going on in manufacturing, the skill sets have increased. We're looking at manufacturing totally different than we did 15, 20 years ago. It's a profession. It's a career path. And being able to provide educational programs through the high school, through College of DuPage, through Tech Center of DuPage, those are assets that we have in our town. We have a potential workforce. Bringing those together really creates a win-win synergy for the community. And it raises socioeconomics as well as provides for our manufacturing needs.
On November 18th, the Church Leadership Council hosted their 4th Community Thanksgiving service. It was held at the Addison Romanian Adventist Church in Addison. We were there to cover that event as well. And that is a nice opportunity, once again, for people to come together, interfaith within the community, to come together and celebrate a very important time in giving thanks. And it's nice that various churches have hosted this event during the course of the last few years.
Well, again, it's all about building community and bringing those groups together where there is a focus, there is a spirituality, if you go in that direction. There's a reason, a motivation, and that's a bond that is really essential and becomes a backbone of our community. And it has really been effective and successful over the years with various different, whether it's the National Day of Prayer, interdenominational programs, but it does bring community together.
And of course, we're looking back just this past year, but you and your fellow board presidents and the various taxing body administrators have been looking forward some 20-some years out into the future with an initiative, a strategic planning initiative that you developed this year called Addison Visioning 2040 Initiative, and you had 2 strategic planning meetings. Just talk for a moment about that, because I think that's important to say that you can't just sit where you are right now. You've got to think not only a few years down the road, but in this case, a couple decades down the road also.
Well, and I think one of the things a lot of residents assume is that municipal government is the only body in town and we control and direct everything that happens. But the reality is there's 5 or 6 different governmental agencies in our community that make decisions. And the reason that we pulled together the Visioning for 2040 was that all of those organizations need to work together and have a shared vision so we all get to the same endpoint at the same time. And I felt it was very important that we meet with our peers in governmental agencies, whether it's the schools, fire district, park, library, to really talk about where we see Addison in the year 2040 and what steps do we need to take to get to that vision. And so we'll continue this dialogue and interaction, and probably we're talking about having a working committee that will focus on priorities and working together to achieve that vision.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have a huge list of community development projects and new businesses and redevelopment projects that have taken place in Addison during 2017. That took a lot of visioning as well. When we return with Mayor Veenstra and our year in review program, we'll take a look at all these various community development projects as our program continues right after these messages. Welcome back to the Village of Addison Year in Review for 2017. Mayor Veenstra, I think for probably about the better part of 10 years on this program, you and your predecessor talked about the Addison Golf Course property. It's not called that anymore.
No, it's not.
There has finally been agreement. In fact, as we speak, construction is well underway towards the construction of homes at what is now called the Enclave at Mill Creek and Army Trail and Mill Road.
Finally, yeah.
I'm sure you're very pleased to see that happen. So what's going to be happening in that area right now? People drive by it, it's right in the center of the community. What's going to be going on there?
Well, it's going to be 87 single-family homes, and they're designed to be for empty nesters primarily, downsized. The master bedrooms on the first floor, optional second floor. The price point is about $350,000 to up to $550,000. Depending on what you're adding onto it. But it's a housing stack piece that has been missing from Addison for a while. And to be able to have essentially a ranch-style home for those who don't want the larger homes anymore, the downsized empty nesters, or for new families just starting out. It gives an option that we really haven't had before. It's a maintenance-free community also, so no snow shoveling, no lawn mowing. It's all taken care of by the association. So it really has a lot of attractiveness that some of us seniors are looking for. So.
Well, as you said, it speaks to what people are shopping for right now, first-time home buyers as opposed to those who are looking for that adult downsizer, as you call it, the options that can go with it. But that price point is important, and I know that the board is very concerned about that because you do continue to have that standard, that level of home building quality that you want to see continue. And really the best way to gauge that is by what the price point is going to be for someone.
Right. And you know, there's a lot of misconception about the price point in Addison as an average because we have quite a few apartment buildings and condos which add to the average. And that being said, we have a lot of homes that are in the $500, $600, $700 million plus range. So there is a very, very broad range of housing available in Addison, and I think this is more representative of what mid-range is for us.
Also talking about a housing stock that was missing, although we wouldn't think of it necessarily, they are homes, but a little different character, and that is going to be senior housing. And again, something that I can remember talking with trustee Jan Mueller about this probably 30 years ago in some cases, where there was a need for assisted living facility in this community. It was becoming very popular back in that day and still is now because people still want to stay in the community. They want to be able to get about, but these are people who don't want to have a deal with a home. And just very recently, this month, in fact, ground was broken for what is called Clarendale Senior Housing of Addison right along Lake Street. Again, check that off the list.
Yeah, and we're very, very proud and excited about that. That is really something that we've been looking for years. And you know, seeing our seniors migrate out west to Huntley or other communities because they had that type of housing available, that was frustrating. People like to stay in Addison. They like to see their families grow and put down roots in our community. And this certainly is going to be an opportunity for people to move into a slightly more comfortable lifestyle and setting. And the developer has got a very, I think, dynamic model that he's proposing for us. Everything from lounge areas to cafe, and it's going to be a self-contained community, but the location between the Marcus Cinema and the hotel, the restaurants that are available, it's going to be a very, very ideal place for seniors to live and to recreate.
And the investment that Ryan Companies is putting into this, a $45 million project, 215,000 square foot facility with different levels of care, different levels of service also. So really a person can enjoy their years living in that community, within our community. And it does speak well to Addison as having homes available for really all needs and all ages.
Right. It does go from independent care to assisted to memory care. So wide continuum of care right there.
And opening is probably scheduled in about a year's time or so. a year and a half or
2019.
so. 2019.
They'll be doing construction all through next year.
All right. Well, we'll see a lot of that. We'll be talking about it as it moves along. Well, another one of those oldies but goodies is the Bucky's mobile station. It's been on our list for a number of years, and this year we saw a lot of construction going on. I don't think we had questions any more specific on Facebook and on your program is what is going on at Lake Street and Rawling Road, Route 53, and that's the Bucky's station, and it is scheduled now for completion probably in early part of 2018.
Right. Probably aside from when is Route 53 going to be completed, this has been the biggest question because it's a substantial undertaking. They actually constructed a bridge to accommodate the curb cut on Lake Street and the entrance into the gas station. Bucky's traditionally is a very large footprint with a convenience center, car wash, and I think they're going to have 6 to 8 islands for the gas pumps. So a lot of work has gone into it. This has been about a 3-year project with the Army Corps of Engineers and various agencies, and so hopefully we'll see a completion in early spring.
And is continuing to serve a need for the business community and will help people who are traveling through our community also by offering that service right there. Another good business community resident is Caputo's, and they have a number of their fresh market facilities around the area. And here in Addison, which was one of their earlier stores, they are doing a huge expansion and remodeling. It's going on right now, and adding to the character of the Lake Street and Mill Road corridor right now. So they're going to offer, they're kind of keep being competitive with a lot of these kind of grocery experiences, I think, that their market is seeing right now. So any word on how that's going?
We're looking at approximately a $2.5 million upgrade. They're substantially moving along right now. We're thinking that a lot of the work should be completed by March or April. And it will be a total facade redo of the entire plaza. They own the entire shopping center there. But it will include a lot of the amenities that you see in their Carroll Stream, which is their flagship building. So we're looking for a huge upgrade and a lot of continued success with Caputo's there.
Well, right along our Lake Street corridor, kind of at the east end of the community, that area is getting a huge facelift schedule for redevelopment, and that is going to be with the Wood Springs Suites Hotel, I guess an extended stay type of hotel, which we don't have that product offered here in the community, and really using an area that has kind of gone into blight and deterioration now to the point where it's going to have a whole new life, and in a very critical corridor too. When you think that the proximity to the highways in that area and now with the O'Hare expansion and all the highways that go along with that, it really is a good time to get into something like that.
You know, those of us who've been in the community for a while remember the old Addison Motel, and those who have been here more recently just remember a very dilapidated, abandoned facility. And so this is going to be a huge asset to the east side of town, and I think we'll see continued growth in that area.
On the east side of town, there continues to be the redevelopment within the Johns Plaza area with the construction at the Dunkley's Bar and Grill, offering a new restaurant availability down at the east end of the community. And along with that is construction. We saw the groundbreaking take place in September of the Addison Bank and Trust, which is Wintrust Community Bank right here. So east side of the community now is getting either redevelopment or, in the case of this bank here, new development. And that's helped this east area of the community.
Yeah, and I mean, we've heard comments over the years that, you know, all the focus has been on the west side, but the west side was ripe for redevelopment at that point with the Centennial Plaza and some of the other amenities that went in. The east side, certainly with 83 proximity and, as you said before, the O'Hare expansion, that area has been designated as a growth area for the O'Hare complex area. And So we're seeing some focus there, and we're anticipating some other big things going on in that area.
Farther out to the west now, a recently approved project. The Village Board just recently took care of this, and that was the Woodland Townhomes, an expanded project now, and some 19 townhomes going into that area. And again, good critical housing choice within the community, good price point, and taking place kind of at the far west end of our community. So you mentioned apartments, condominiums, ranch homes, luxury homes. Here's townhomes now that are
Right.
going in the community. And there's probably a need for having a housing stock of that choice.
Well,
within the community.
and it again gives an option to the empty nesters and the people who want to kind of downsize a little bit and again stay in Addison. So we've really looked at all of the elements to maintaining our population base and growing the community.
While we talk about community development projects, we should probably report on some of the things that were completed in 2017. People like to know things were done. Hey, you talked about that a year or two ago. Haven't heard much about it, although they're thriving businesses. So just take a moment and tell us about some of these things that we've completed. They've opened, operating, and hopefully very successful in Addison.
Well, I mean, the list is so long, I had to actually write them down because you
can't
don't
remember them all.
realize over the year. But, you know, aside from just facelifts for, you know, Burger King and McDonald's, Popeyes finally opened. That was a long time project. The new Taco Bell, Gordillas just opened. Bricky's Cafe, the Lorena's Banquet Hall should be opening after the first of the year. Firehouse Subs is a new addition to the community. So over this last year, there's been a remarkable growth or rebirth of businesses in town. So it's been a very, very strong year economically.
And we can't stress it enough. Visit these restaurants, be a consumer, be a patron of these various businesses and restaurants, because it really does help yourself and help your community by bringing and keeping those dollars right here in the community.
And, you know, we were just talking about it last night. You know, 15 years ago, you'd be hard pressed to find a restaurant in town to go to. And now, when we did the groundbreaking, the developer for the senior living center was talking about what a great place Addison is and all the restaurants, and he was just raving about the opportunities here, which is always great to hear. You know,
Right.
so.
One of the mainstays, an institution in Addison, has been Luther Brook. In fact, it is older than the Village of Addison itself. I always find that kind of interesting. They closed in 2017, and now that property is on the market. We've talked about this on the program each month here. Have there been any updates, anything new that you've heard as far as the Luther Brook sale right along Lake Street?
They've had several inquiries. A lot of them aren't really consistent with what we see we'd like to develop there. So they're still out there working aggressively. There's been a couple of recent inquiries that may prove to be valuable, but at this point, nothing definite is. But that 16 and a half acres is critical
It is
to our
critical.
future of our community. So-
And my understanding is the owner and the broker are working closely with the village,
Yeah.
keeping in touch with you and your staff here to make sure that it is something that will be acceptable because of the high-profile nature of that
Exactly,
property.
exactly.
Very good. A couple of public works projects that we should just talk about. They do fall under community development. They're important. First of all, Byron Avenue. Word out to the Byron Avenue residents, because there's going to be a huge infrastructure project taking place
Yeah.
right along that area, as well as the Lorraine Avenue area as well, and it is underway, at this time.
Right.
So it's something to keep aware of.
Water mains, resurfacing, a lot of critical infrastructure upgrades. Some of the sewers there are 50 years old, and
Time for replacement.
as in other areas of our community. So it's time for replacement upgrades.
And we just heard, in fact, your village board meeting just very recently heard a update and a public hearing on the Army Trail water main replacement and resurfacing that's going to be happening right along the Army Trail Road corridor with some very nice amenities, sidewalks, and it'll be a much safer road as well. And again, time to get some water main replaced in that area.
Well, and Addison's 133, 134 years old. Things do deteriorate, and
Yes, they do.
it's very important. We talked about the future of our community. Maintaining the infrastructure is critical, and staying consistent and staying on top of it is certainly a focus that we've had this year.
And a lot of these projects are relying upon grants as well, and
Right.
you need to have those dollars come back to the community, federal, local projects. federal monies to come back to help these local projects. That's important to see as those dollars come back.
Definitely, and the project that we approved last night, 25% of that will be federal grants. So it certainly helps the taxpayers locally as well as moves us forward.
We're only halfway through our list. We're covering what's been happening in Addison during 2017. We have a lot more to go, and we're glad that you are spending your holiday with us as Mayor Veenstra and I take a look back at the Village of Addison in this year of 2017. We'll be back with our program and talk some more about what's been going on in your community right after this. Welcome back to the Village of Addison Year in Review for 2017. I'm Don Weiss, and as I said at the top of our program, we've been doing this annual event, looking back on what's been happening in Addison for the past year for some 30 years. And joining me once again is Mayor Rich Veenstra. We are taking a look at many projects, and I want to thank all of the department heads who brought us all this information. You know, we think we know everything, Mayor, and you don't, because you missed quite a few things. We're going to talk about some public works projects, and a lot of this is things that the residents may not see initially, but they are vital. They're critical to the operations of our infrastructure. And keeping up, I think, with all of our infrastructure projects, making sure things are maintained, replaced when they need to be replaced, new technologies brought in. So from a public works standpoint now, and they have a number of things that we can highlight as we talk about that, why is it important that the village board allocate the money and then the staff actually gets the work done to make sure that our infrastructure is kept up to date and we're not having a lot of problems with things breaking and falling apart?
Well, you know, things that we all take for granted, whether it's turning on the tap and seeing the water flow, or flushing a toilet, or being able to drive in the middle of winter on snowy streets, we take that for granted. You know, we don't have to worry about it. But we very seldom think about the men and women that are behind the scenes that are doing this on a daily basis to make sure those things happen for us. And being able to give them the supplies, the equipment, and maintaining the infrastructure to provide those services to our residents is critical. That's what makes our community work.
A lot of people don't realize that things like the maintenance of the water towers, which is being planned for this coming year, 2018, you have to do that on a maybe not every year or every few year basis, but when it has to take place, it's expensive. Those are big ticket items that need to be budgeted for, and the village board will be getting into the budget process before too long. A lot of times you've heard Rick Federici talk at the village meetings about sewer televising, which it's not like this televising, but when you go into taking a look at where problems might exist.
They were talking about the program.
No. Where they have to look for various intrusions, things that are causing issues. If you don't find those, you could have things like street flooding, ponding, and so on, and we don't want to have that if it can be avoided, and maintenance issues are important.
Well, doing that preventively as opposed to after the leak develops is critical. It saves money and certainly saves a lot of aggravation and disruption on the part of the residents.
And even at the Public Works facility itself, there were improvements made this year. The building was painted. Its neighboring building, the Communications Center, being ready to open in 2018, that was painted also. Even the fuel island will now have a sensor, so when the village vehicles pull up, there'll be a sensor that will automatically detect the mileage. It'll put in a report as to what's been going on with the vehicle, and that helps our central garage staff then when cars need to be maintained, vehicles need to be replaced, for example, or troubleshooting things also. And that saves time, too, for the staff.
Well, and as the technology changes, the ability for us to do the job better and more effectively is there. And it's very important that we stay current. As far as just the appearance of our community, we were driving through, my wife and I were driving through a neighboring community not that long ago, and their water tower literally was blackened. And I looked at it and my comment was, wow, that doesn't say much for the community.
That's right.
You know, so you don't realize the impressions that are made by things like whether your water tower is repainted and kept up. And so those are all little elements that people take for granted, but really add to the vision and the persona of the community.
Well, it's important to remember that maintenance is critical, because if you could defer it for a year or two, but when a year or two becomes 4, 5, 6 years down the road, now you're going to pay a lot more money. And if it breaks, now you have a real emergency on your hands.
Definitely.
So water mains and all these the water tower, as you just mentioned, all of these things need to be maintained on a yearly basis. And we have the ability to do that through our revenue sources that help us to appropriate that money. While we're on the topic of Public Works, maybe this would be an appropriate time once again to give a big thank you and congratulate and acknowledge the work of the Public Works Department right outside of our Village Hall building here on both the east and west sides. And we've been looking at it during our program as we've gone to the break. The beautiful holiday lights and decor that really highlight the Friendship Plaza area, and this has been going on now for many years, but I know that you hear from residents who say, boy, I go through other towns, and I'll tell you, Addison is just far way above when it comes to the lighting that we do during the holiday season and all that decor. So great job again by Public Works.
Actually the other day I was downstairs in the rotunda, and this young woman with her child was taking a picture in front of the Christmas tree, and she told me that her parents still live in Addison. She moved to Mundelein, but Thursday nights they're always in Addison rocking wheels.
Good.
The trees are here, and they just love being in Addison. And but that's a very, very common thing that we're hearing.
Right, and we know that our employees take a lot of pride really in all that they do, and this is
Great
the time of year
job,
when we're recognizing our employees for all their efforts. And so thank you again to everyone who had a part in putting all of the holiday decor in place here for the season. Well, we're going to take a break. Our final segment will be coming up, and we'll talk about what's going to be on the schedule and agenda for 2018. We're glad you're joining us as well. We'll return to the Village of Addison Year in Review right after these messages. Well, as we've been talking during our Year in Review program, you may have questions or want to know more about something that's happening here in the Village of Addison, or maybe even with some of our partner agencies, the various taxing bodies that serve our community. You'll have that opportunity once again coming up on Wednesday, January 24th, when it's time for the 11th annual Shape of Addison Town Hall meeting. It will be televised live right here on Addison Community Television. It takes place in the boardroom of the Addison Village Hall, and residents are invited to attend. You can come out in person. You'll hear reports from the board presidents of 6 Addison agencies, and then the community has the opportunity to ask a question, and you can do that by being a member of the audience right here at the Village Hall boardroom, or you can watch during our live broadcast on January 24th and phone in or email in your question or comment to any of the participating board presidents. So that's the 11th annual Shape of Addison Town Hall meeting, sponsored by Itasca Bank and Trust Company on Wednesday, January 24th, live right here on Addison Community Television beginning at 7 p.m. This is sort of the warm-up.
So encourage residents to call in and ask the other 5 agencies questions.
On behalf of the village, of the mayor, please do this be his public service announcement. It is really important because those agencies are critical, and perhaps you wanted to know something about your fire protection district. Mike Super would just love to have your question.
Right.
But you're right, Mayor, and it just happens that way.
Yeah.
The mayor gets 99% of the questions, but
That's fine.
Good call on that, too. So please tune in or come in and bring lots of questions for your school district and others as well. We won't pick on just the school district.
Right.
A couple of things that are going to be coming up in 2018, Mayor, before we bring our visit today to a close. There's been a project that's been going on now for several years. In fact, it really is up and operating right now. It's called the Addison Consolidated Dispatch Center, and really has allowed our public safety agencies in the community and in many other communities to come up to a new level, a new standard when it comes to use of technology and emergency response. And Addison will be opening its doors to the new ACDC complex coming up in 2018. So you must be very pleased that Addison is really taking the lead on this communications dispatch.
It certainly is a source of pride it should be for all of our residents. Several years ago, we actually, Joe Black and Bill Hayden came up with the suggestion that we could provide dispatch services for other communities. And we broached that idea with the neighboring community. They were willing to give it a try, and they found that our dispatchers could more effectively dispatch than their own homegrown team could. And that concept really matured, and we added additional communities that we dispatch for, fire districts, the Forest Preserve District, and we realized that this is a way of consolidating services and doing things more cost effectively for our community as well as other communities. So it continued to grow to the point where the county recognized that we can consolidate over 20 or more dispatch centers throughout the entire county and have a much more effective service. So the anticipation is once our building is completed, which should be the first couple of months of this coming year, we will be providing dispatch services for over 15 different municipalities and governmental organizations. We will be able to fully back up DUCOM, which is the other main dispatch service in DuPage County, as well as the Sheriff's Office. So from going to as many as 33 different dispatch centers throughout DuPage County, we'll be down to 3, much more cost effective and much higher quality in terms of response and ability. And for Addison to have stepped forward and to really kind of shepherd this all the way through is remarkable, and it says so much about our community and establish us as one of the leaders in DuPage County.
And it's best served when it is seamless. When a person calls 911 because they need emergency services, they will get the services that they need. It doesn't matter if it's taking place on one community or one facility or the other. It just happens to be coming out of Addison, but is serving, probably half, if not more, of DuPage County. I mean, that's 500,000 people right there that this facility will be serving. So, and consolidation does not necessarily mean lesser service. In fact, if anything, it makes you smarter, and your service has to become, your service delivery becomes even more critical, and that teaches you how to deliver public services in a smart way. And I think that's what ACDC is going to accomplish.
And it's been remarkable because talking to fellow mayors, I mean, they've been unbelievably impressed with our ability to know their communities better than they knew their communities. And so that adds to response capabilities and higher level of safety for all of the residents of DuPage County.
Very good. Well, December kicked off the start of Illinois' observance of its 200th anniversary of statehood. It is the Illinois Bicentennial. It was kicked off just in early December here. Mayor Veenstra had the honor of hoisting the bicentennial flag up right outside of the Village Hall. But we have a whole year's worth of events and activities that Addison will be taking part in and bringing to our community, so we can join in with all of our fellow Illinoisans in highlighting the 200th anniversary of our state. So just give a couple words about things that are planned in 2018 for the Illinois Bicentennial.
Well, first of all, thanks to Susan English, our curator of the museum, because she's really kind of spearheaded the initiative. But in addition to a lot of educational things with the schools, museum tours and programs that she's working on, we're going to be doing our first parade in about 10 years in Addison to commemorate the bicentennial. It's going to be co-sponsored by the Lodge, the
Medina Shriners.
Medina Shriners, and they have offered their full services and their all of their units. And we're making this a community event, but we've also invited the governor to be present and a lot of our local elected officials, and it's going to be a real big celebration. Following the parade, we're going to have some festivities in the Village Green. So we're looking forward to a very exciting summer and a lot of recognition of our state. And
it's one of those once-in-a-lifetime events, too.
Right.
And in this case here, now giving recognition to Illinois statehood, which was established in 1818, and here we are now 200 years later, ready to celebrate. And I think we celebrate for our community. We celebrate in an Addison style.
Right.
The parade, the Medina Shriners, the event in the Village Green. As you mentioned, Susan English, the historical societies working on things, the library, the schools. Everybody's getting involved, and that goes back to the very first thing we talked about, that idea idea of really community engagement.
Right.
And here we are to rally around and celebrate. You don't get those things too often, and here we have one that is really being handed not only to this community, but to the entire state, and we should really make the best of it, and I'm sure we will. So, well, Mayor, we've come to the end of our program. In just that short amount of time, we zipped right through, talked about everything there was to talk about in 2017, and certainly look forward to our new year. But before we close out, I'd like to give you the opportunity, if you would, to send greetings of the season to our community.
Sure. Well, on behalf of the Village Board, I just want to wish all of our residents the blessings of the season and health and prosperity throughout the coming year. It's been a great year for Addison, and we're looking forward to an even greater year this coming year and sharing that with all of our residents. So thank you, and God bless.
Mayor, thank you very much for spending this time with us today. And we would like to thank you for joining us, not only for this program today, but I want to thank all the residents who have watched Addison Community Television. We've been on the air now for 35 years. Just marked that 35th year occasion in 2017. And to think that we've done just this very format program for 30 years really speaks well, I think, to your elected officials and the people who represent you in public office in the community. So it's been our honor to deliver their message to you for those many years. And now for all of us here at Addison Community Television, our best wishes to you for a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and a joyous holiday season. See you again in 2018.